Well, the pharmacy chain CVS is taking some heat trying to crack down on prescription drug abuse. The company will no longer fill prescriptions written by certain doctors for widely abused pain drugs.
Well, right now that ban applies only to some doctors in the state of Florida, but could this hurt legitimate patients? Joining us now, Dr. Ernest Patti. He's the senior attending physician of emergency management at St. Barnabas Hospital in the Bronx, New York. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Heather.
So some people need these pain medications, but the potential for abuse, it is great. So is this the best way to counter that?
Well, there's definitely indications for being on strong narcotic pain medicine. I mean, you break your leg, you have migraine headaches, post-operative, of course you need to be on medication. And there is a certain percentage of patients who require long-term chronic medication use. It's definitely, they're trying to observe and to see the prescribing practices of the physicians, but there needs to be a two-way dialogue. These physicians were trained and appropriately certified in prescribing these types of medications.
What about here in New York? How does it work?
Here in New York, we get routinely monitored by the state, and we receive, I've received letters if I've prescribed too many narcotics for one or two particular patients, because they monitor the percentages of these prescriptions that are filled in New York State.
Apparently it wasn't going on in some other states, including Florida, that way.
And I know that there's some insurance companies. United Healthcare, for example, they monitor if you have different doctors prescribing different medications and maybe they won't work together, they'll kind of flash a red light at that.
Sure, you mean if there's an interaction?
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, the basic premise is all of this is supposed to help us maintain safe patient prescribing practices. And that's really key, because the ultimate, thing is you want to maintain the safety and integrity of the patient.
Here's what I worry about. There are doctors out there, entire practices are devoted to pain management. They'll get referrals from other doctors. So naturally, they're going to have a disproportionately high number of prescriptions for pain medications that now, patients may not be able to fill at CVS.
Of course, and that's why I mentioned there needs to be a two-way dialogue. You can't just stop filling these prescriptions for a subset of physicians. They need to have a two-way dialogue, which I guess didn't happen initially in Florida. Some hospitals have stopped prescribing certain medications. At my hospital in the Bronx, we stopped using a drug called Demerol, which has a high potential for addiction and abuse. We use other equally as potent medications. Some of my physicians in the community have stopped prescribing medications like Percocet, which have a high abuse potential.
Let me put up on the screen, because we just got it, a CVS statement. Can we put that up and I'll read it because I don't have a hard copy of it. Here it is. While we regret any inconveniences this may cause for our customers, we treat the dispensing of controlled substances with the utmost care and seriousness.
Do you think that this will keep patients who need these medications from being able to get them, or will they just say it's too much of a hassle and not try to get the medications?
Well, it seems that the way they enacted this whole program, sort of, under the table in a sense, caused a lot of people who legitimately needed these medicines to be unable to get them. So they need to actually revamp this process, and there needs to be a definite communication with the physician officers.
You know what I think happened here? I think the lawyers got to CVS with all of the stories about abuse of OxyContin and some of the other drugs. Look, CVS could be legally liable in the same way a bar is legally liable and could get sued for over-serving a customer if the customer hits somebody in an automobile. I suppose CVS could get sued for over-prescribing.
Right, if there's a case where the patient overdoses, say, and has a bad outcome. I imagine that's probably why they did that, yeah.
So ultimately, who should be responsible for your health and your health care?
Well, ultimately, the physician is the one who's licensed for your health and your well-being. But the pharmacists act as a watchdog for us as well, and they're an integral part of the healthcare team.
Dr. Ernest Patti at St. Barnabas in the Bronx. Thanks for dropping by.
Thanks very much for having me.
As always.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us.